Hello, and welcome to the Expanded Woman Network podcast. I'm your host, Sherry Gideons, and this is my co-host, Misty Willis.
Hello, everybody. So welcome to our show. Today we have Michele Farrell, and she's the CCO of the Financial Architects Wealth Management. She believes that you deserve the best when it comes to your hard-earned money and should accept nothing less. So we are so happy to have you here, Michele. Thank you for coming on today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you, ladies, for inviting me. I always take it. I love having an opportunity to share a little bit about money, which is one of my favorite topics.
Yes, well, great. We're so happy to have you here. Now, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what got you started into the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did claims for insurance for, well over a decade, and I just found it wasn't really satisfying me. I wanted to find a little bit more purpose, and I stumbled into a interview with another financial services company. And before I kind of got into the industry, I had this mindset of, I think a lot of people, especially women, have money is evil. That whole Occupy Wall Street, I think a lot of people related to that. And then I got introduced to the industry, and I learned that, wow, I could really actually talk to really middle America and say, hey, these are some financial concepts that everybody should know. They should be taught in schools, what they aren't. And really just took that as my life's purpose. And there's a couple reasons why it really kind of hit me in the heart. My dad had all of his life insurance through work, got laid off at the age of 52, 3 weeks later passes away of a heart attack. So he basically had no insurance. And this is back in 1983. So my mom was just starting to get back into the workforce. And, my dad handled all of the finances, all of the investing. So now she's getting back into the workforce. She was in the Navy until she got pregnant with me. She always teases me. I was in the Navy for 5.5 months. And then she just, she became a single mom. So her focus was paying the bills every month, and didn't really have anybody to turn to how do I set myself up for retirement? So we fast forward to age 65, and she medically has to retire. And she was one of those, I'm just going to work until I die. I don't really need to worry about it. And then she was forced to retire, and she had less than $10,000 in her 401k, trying to live in Southern California. And that just wasn't going to be possible. So as I got into the industry, I just learned that a lot of people are uneducated about money and finance and financial concepts, and tools that are really available to everybody. Doesn't matter if you live on Main Street or Wall Street or anywhere in between. And so I made it kind of my mission and my passion to help people. And I've really found a soft spot for women because, number one, I am one. I wish I would have known this education back in my 20s to give myself a head start instead of learning when I was in my 40s. And so I just really love educating and empowering women about what they could do, because they find themselves behind the 8 ball so much.
For sure.
Absolutely.
So you kind of talked about some of the limiting beliefs that we've had, growing up and with women and stuff. How can our mindsets kind of make or break us financially? What is the difference? What can you tell us about that?
Well, you really have you either have two mindsets. You have a scarcity mindset, or, kind of even a money is evil mindset, and then you have abundance mindset where there's an infinite amount of money. And I kind of came from that scarcity mindset. I think especially when we're not exposed to people that have that abundant mindset, and that there's an infinite amount of money, you think the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. So one of the things you really need to do is you just need to examine your beliefs around money. People don't want to talk about money, sex, or politics, right? And religion. And so one of the things to do is just becoming comfortable with money. So sit down and, what does money mean to me? And this is one of the challenges I had when I got into the industry, because I came from one of those huge scarcity mindset. And so I had to really look and examine my beliefs about money. What does money mean to me? And for me personally, and I think if you talk to a lot of successful people, especially women, it means money means choices. It means freedom. It gives you the ability to choose. One of the reasons why I love the industry I'm in is I shared my mom has some health challenges, right? And she's got Medicare and she's got access to VA benefits, but God forbid she gets sick. Do I want to have that choice of allowing them to dictate if she needs to go into a nursing home or she needs care, or do I want to make the decisions? So it's shifting that money isn't necessarily, it's not looking at it as that tangible thing, but it's what can it do for me? So it's writing down what are some lifestyle choices that I want to make? What are some, do I want to be able to spend, take a month off in the summer and spend it with my kids? Do I want to be able to choose the care that myself and my family and my parents get? Do I want to help retire my parents? Do I want to send my kids to private school? It's what choices can that give you? Do you want to retire at age 50 or 70? And so I think once we get around what money could do for us, it's a lot easier to say, well, I want some more money. And then I started by just listening to affirmations and putting myself around, like listening to, there's this one YouTube song that I listen to, like anytime I kind of get in the dumps, and it's money is coming to me. And it talks about how it's, I have enough to pay my bills. I have enough to share. I have enough to give away. And it's just one of those things is like, you got to just work on it over and over again. You can't say, okay, like I want it. It's kind of like in Think and Grow Rich, write your goals out twice a day, right? Read it every morning, every night. You got to do that with money. You got to reprogram your brain to having that abundant mindset.
That's so true, because like Dr. Joe Dispenza, one of the things he talks about is that we use literally 95% of our subconscious mind, and we live in the past in today. And so it's about readdressing the clarity and really understanding the invoking of the feeling, because it's a chemical process that's released in our body, and we're putting that out. And it's so beautiful that you brought up Think and Grow Rich, because I mean, one of the books that I've been really involved in right now is Outwitting the Devil by Sharon Lecter. And it's a book that Napoleon Hill had written and sat in his vault, or, his wherever he puts his vault. And it sat there for 75 years because his wife was fearful of putting out this kind of information of how to tap into the inside. And I can relate on everything you've shared, because that is the modeled behavior, the conditioned behavior that was set up for me in my own belief system, in my family. And now with so many of the tools that you're bringing forward that we can use to be able to shift those habits, because really, if you think about it, they're habits. And so you mentioned about writing down. Are there other practical tools that we can use to really shift that?
Yeah, I would say work with a financial professional, and somebody that really takes a holistic view of your entire financial picture, that looks at your cash flow, that looks at, do you have enough proper protection? God forbid something happens to you where you have a disability, illness, God forbid death. What are your goals for the future? And the right financial professional will be able to ask you the right questions to help you make those difficult questions. You just think about it. If you got a professional athlete, let's just go back to LeBron James. He has a coach. He has somebody that teaches him, hey, you need to tweak this form. These are the plays we want to run up. Now, he doesn't necessarily listen all the time, but he has a coach in the background. You've got, Mike Trout. He's got a hitting coach and a fielding coach. So any professional is going to get that professional feedback because they got blind spots. And so as a financial professional, it's my job to sit down with you and get to know you, know what your goals and your dreams are, and then figure out what the best plan is for you. It's your money. It's your life. You have to make the decisions. But if you don't have that kind of that coach in your background, it's going to be really hard to achieve what you want to get, how you get there. And I think I even have a financial advisor because I have blind spots. And so mine's like, hey, I know your income just went up. Did you increase your savings? I'm like, dang it. You mean I have to save more now that I earn more instead of go spend more? And so, because I'm naturally a spender, I got money in my pocket. I'm like, let's go. And so I even need that professional coach to help me with my disciplines. And so it's educating yourself, and it's kind of one of those trust but verify. Like last week, I hurt my knee, and I knew I had a hurt knee. I didn't know exactly what the diagnosis was. I was pretty sure I was going to end up on crutches by the end of the day, but I didn't try to treat myself. I didn't say, well, okay, I'm just going to throw a brace on this and buy a pair of crutches and hope for the best. I went to the doctor. She told me what my diagnosis was. And then I still Googled it and researched it. I'm like, okay, how long is this probably going to take me to heal? And what are some exercises I could do? And so even like, you still need the professionals. So, a couple of great books are Think and Grow Rich, because it gets you into that abundance mindset. Another one is Power of Zero, because it gives you some really great knowledge about how you can retire tax-free. So you want to have a team of professionals, not only a financial advisor, but a tax person that you believe in, even a business attorney, to make sure that you're making correct, as us having business owners, right? We want to make sure we're protecting our business. And so those are all really important things to have in your back pocket, is to be surrounded by a team of people. And then the last thing is associations. So many people say you are the 5 people you spend the most time around. So you want to make sure you're spending time with people who have that abundant mindset. I had to eliminate 90% of people out of my life, because I can't listen to you hear how broke you are every single week when I see you. And so sometimes it's removing yourself from those situations where you could really be around people that have the same mindset you want to be in, even if it's uncomfortable, actually, especially if it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Get out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's part of our limiting beliefs too, is sometimes we're in that comfort zone. It feels good to us because we're there and we're familiar with it. But then when you put us outside of that, that's what creates some of that being scared or vulnerable or those feelings. So we don't want to feel those things. So we kind of stay in our little box of what's comfortable. So I love that you say that we have to get out of the comfort zone.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so much of it involves stretching. And see, it's interesting because when you talk about surrounding yourself with, 5 people, I mean, one of the things that I realized in that shift of mindset for myself is as you stretch, what happens is you begin to pull in so much more. And I read, it's funny you bring up, books, because one of the books that I read years ago, probably in the early 2000s, was a book by the name of, by Catherine Ponder. And it's a prosperity book. And one of the things she addresses in the book is when you're paying your bills, pay them with joy, because life is an energy source of reciprocal flow. So what we don't realize is whatever we're putting out, whatever we are putting out, we pull back. And so she says, like, if we're paying, a $200 bill or more, or whatever, and we're writing out the check, because back in those days, we still really wrote out checks. And she says, and write that with joy. And then when we speak, or when we write on paper, she says, always write from the present tense. So always write, how happy and grateful now that. And what that does is, because abundance is everywhere present, it's actually creating a higher vibration, a higher frequency signal in ourselves that is pulling more people, more situations, more joy, more abundance and happiness, that's all aligned with what we're tapped into, that feeling on the inside. And I remember reading that and I was like, whoa, this is so powerful.
Yeah. I mean, that's so true. Like when I write out my goals every morning, I'm like, man, today was the best day I've ever had. Like, it's going to be another awesome day. I had X amount of dollars spent in my, I put my amount, but I had another X amount of dollars spent in my bank account today. Like, I am winning every day. And like, it just gets me fired up for the day. And then I'm able to not only keep that for myself, but I'm also just able to share that with people that I contact too. So I get to give it as well. And I'm totally grateful. You can't be grateful and angry or in like in a negative spot at the same time. So going back to gratitude is like number one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it sounds like clarity is one of those things that you keep addressing, because with so many people, you can ask the question, what is it you want? And people will literally answer with, I don't know. And the first thing I hear in my head when I hear I don't know is, that's why you're not getting what you really want. If you don't have clarity around what you want, you can't pull it into your experience. And what I'm hearing with you is over and over, I've heard you say clarity. You're helping people to clarify what they want. So when we talk about financial money, what kind of steps so where actually, in what areas as a financial advisor are you directing people? Is it stocks? Is it, investments?
That's a great question, Sherry. And it really depends on where you're at in your financial journey. I mean, imagine if you're taking a road trip to New York. Like, one of the first things we do is we're like, okay, what's the route to get there? And then are we like at home and we haven't even bought the car yet? Which is kind of getting yourself out of debt and freeing up some cash flow to just start saving. Or you got the car, you're gassed up, you're on the road, but you realize, oh man, I have no idea where I'm getting there. So there's a few things that I look at is, where are you at kind of in your life? Are you 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s, and you're like ready to pull the trigger? Because if you're 60 and you're about to pull the trigger, I am not going to put you in an aggressive stock portfolio. That is like one of the worst things that you could do. One of the great things about our company is we're completely non-captive. So we could really choose whatever vehicle is proper for you, whether it be a portfolio in the market, it be a fixed index annuity, it be life insurance, whatever it is, we're able to figure out exactly what that is. So it may be, go start an online savings account so you're at least earning 1% and get an emergency fund set up. It may be, hey, let's get you some life insurance. God forbid something happens to you, because that's your financial foundation. You think about, you're building a mansion and you build a really horrible foundation, and you have one slight earthquake, one hurricane, one tornado, the whole house is gone. I mean, that's really what happened to my mom. They had bought what they thought was going to be their forever home. They were in the model of remodeling, and then my dad passes away, and 2 years later, my mom has to sell, and she ended up filing bankruptcy within 10 years, and he had life insurance. They had a plan of what to do with that life insurance money. I think my mom would have been able to avoid all of those financial pitfalls along the way. So it's, where are you in your journey? And then I also look at your time horizon, and I look at, what's your risk tolerance. You could be 60 and be really aggressive, and you could be 20 and really conservative. So I'm going to match your investment choices with where your risk tolerance is, to make sure that when you go to bed at night, you're not wondering, when I wake up in the morning, is the stock market going to be down 30% like it was in the beginning of COVID? Like, is that going to completely destroy me? Had a client where they just left their money in the market, and they lost over $100,000 in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And they were living off of that money. So it really depends where you're at in your journey. And that's the thing. It's not, I'm not gonna have somebody walk in and I'm already gonna have like the paperwork ready to fill out, because I don't know where you're at. So I do a couple step process. I kind of get to know you, find out where you're going, and then I'll come back and I'll share some options. Sometimes it takes 4 or 5 appointments to really narrow it down, depending if you're, a married couple, you're single, you're a business owner. Are we starting a 401k for you for your business? So it really kind of depends where you're at too.
Okay. Wow. So you mentioned, time 40s, 50s, what kind of time frame we're in. How is that a challenge when it comes to women and how they are saving money?
There's a couple of big challenges. Number one, women typically don't work as much because they take time off to give birth. So sometimes they'll take time off to stay home. It could be for 6 months. Maybe they take, like, I'm going to stay home until they got the privilege or the luxury of staying home until, the little one's 5 or 6 years old and is in, kindergarten or first grade. And so now they have less time. They're contributing to like a 401k or the retirement savings. The other thing is they tend to be the caregiver. So if a sibling or a parent or their spouse gets sick, they're the first ones that will most likely cut back on hours at work. So then again, their income decreases. And then we also live longer than men. And so now we have to, when we're in retirement planning, we have to plan for living longer to make sure our money doesn't run out before we pass away. And also to make sure we have somebody take care of us, because we're usually the caregivers. Mm-hmm. So those are the ways that some, like, time hurts us. The other big thing is that we tend not to make as much money as men. It actually, at one point, it was 84 cents to every dollar. It's actually slid back down to 80 cents for every dollar that corporate women make to the men. And what fascinated about the stat that I read is most women didn't realize they could be CEOs until somebody else told them to. And that was mind-boggling to me. And I think that goes back to the mindset where, as women collectively, we really just need to support and encourage women. And the other challenge on that is just they tend to, so there's 3 enemies to our money, really, really quick. There's inflation. So we need to make sure we're earning 3 to 5% every single year. Our dollar's going to be worth less, say, in 20 years than today. Taxation. So we got to make sure we're taxing our money right. And then procrastination. And time hurts us as women because we tend to be a little bit more pragmatic. And if we're not educated and we don't know what we're going to do, is we're going to invest more conservatively. So then we go back to where we may not be outpacing inflation. And so we may not be earning as much in our investments as our men counterparts.
Yeah, and it's so funny because my mother, for example, she had gotten an inheritance for $250,000. And her mindset came from the scarcity mindset. So she's like, oh my God, $250,000. That was like, it meant everything to her. And so, of course, she wanted to play it very safe. And I think she just put it like in something where you're getting 4%, something to that degree. And so what are some money mindset tips? Because I know that that's so huge. Because here, let's just face it. You as a financial advisor, you could be bogged down yourself with a lot of people who are fearful and coming from that fearful mindset and maybe following some of the strategies that you're helping them address. But at the same time, they have that old program that's running in them and probably calling you up all the time going, oh my God, the market's here. Oh my God, the market's here. How do you help them through that process?
A lot of it is building the relationship with them. Mm-hmm. And they have an inherent trust with me that I'm going to do what's right. And one of the things that I always do when I'm sitting out with the client is like, would I make this recommendation to my mom? Because if I want to make the recommendation to my mom, then I wouldn't make the recommendation. And so I tend to spend some extra time building that trust and rapport. So when this past 3 months, I didn't really get any phone calls about people freaking out about their money in the market and stuff like that, because I do enough I have the conversation in the front, like, hey, you may lose some money here, but you know what? And I go over the rule of 72. So if you understand the rule of 72, ladies, do you know what the rule of 72 is?
No, tell us.
Yeah,
so
explain it.
This is crazy. So Albert Einstein calls this the 8th wonder of the world, and nobody knows about it. So we learn about the pyramids, we learn about the Nile, but we don't learn about how our money compounds. And so it's a simple formula. You take 72 and you divide it by the interest rate being earned, and that will tell you how many years it'll take your money to double. So for example, you put $10,000 in a online savings bank that's giving you 1%. It'll take 72 years for that 10,000 to turn into 20. So if you're earning, 4%, it's going to double every 16 years. If you're earning 9%, it's going to double every 8 years. So that's one of the things that I explain to somebody who's maybe they still got 20 years left in the market, and they're like, I want to stay around 3%. I'll show them the rule of 72 and say, well, would you rather have, 100,000 or 300,000 when you retire? Oh, I would rather have 300,000. Well, this is why this portfolio makes a little bit more sense than this one, because this one's going to actually get you to your goals. This one won't. So what's more important to you? Being able to live in the way you want to in retirement, or putting your head down every night, knowing that history repeats itself in the markets.
Right.
Every 10 years or so, we're going to have 2 bad years. We always come out ahead. We were actually up almost 300% from 2008 to before the markets went back down. I'm like, it's a little bit scary, but you're still doing better than if you still were at that 2 to 3%. So I educate them.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things about mindset is people are afraid of the unknown. So if you teach them, it's no longer unknown. And they're like, okay, now I can make it. Like anytime you make a decision, if you're educated about the decision, you're like, okay, I'm still a little nervous about it, but I'm going to trust that I've got the right professional in front of me. I'm going to trust myself. And I'm going to, and I always make myself, hey, shoot me a text, give me a call, send me an email. Always feel free to reach out. And you always want to have that professional that's going to be there to educate you. I actually have a couple of my coworkers like, your appointments run way too long. Like, you just talk too much. And I'm like, I would rather, I want to educate. And so if they're educated, I may spend a little bit more time up front, but then we're good after that because they just know, they understand the process.
Yeah, I think it's a lot about explaining and setting your expectations, setting their expectations. And if they know that, hey, they see the curve and that it's gonna, it's cyclical, it goes up and down, and you'll be able to see that over time. And if you just leave your money there, it makes sense to keep it there over time. So I totally get it. And I love that, the fact that you do that. And I feel like Sherry and I both do that in our work too, maybe a little different, but we have to do that and set the expectations so that people understand. And you have a whole lot less questions. You have a whole lot less freaking out if you do that ahead of time. So good job.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah, it surprises me how many people I sit down with that have worked with another, advisor or broker in the past. And then one of our questions when we're doing our risk questionnaire is how well do you understand your current products, like your current investments? And a lot of times it's like not knowledgeable at all or somewhat knowledgeable. I'm like, you've got $200,000 sitting in this portfolio and you have no idea what it is. Like that, to me, that's scary. And it's teaching the mindset of becoming educated, because if you know what to expect, then you're willing to be a little bit more aggressive. And it's important as an advisor. I just naturally am a little bit more aggressive. And I have to really take the time to take myself out of the equation and say, I know I'm aggressive, but this person is really conservative. So I got to make sure I'm following their wishes versus my own. And some advisors are like, no, this is what we need to do. And you tend to really find this with men advisors. I know what we're doing. This is the way we've always done it. And they don't take that time. They just kind of, what's the word? Just force their will on you. And that's just, that doesn't help your money mindset, because it decreases your confidence.
Yeah, so true. I mean, we lost, gosh, probably 20,000 ourselves in this market. But, my husband's very aggressive. And so at first I was like, oh my God, 20,000, and then he, like you said, I mean, the education, he takes the time to educate, but he's aggressive in some of the stocks that have dropped so significantly, because those stocks are going to rise again.
Yeah.
And so it was so funny because 2 weeks ago, the market just flew, and everything we had lost, we got back in a day.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like shifting that money mindset. But what does it take for a person to start out with you? Because, I mean, do you have to have a certain amount of money, or when they come to you, like, how does that work?
No, that's a great question. I don't have a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have some willingness is really what it is. Mm-hmm. So if you're willing to put at least, if we're looking at investing in the stock market, getting some mutual fund or ETF or exchange traded funds in the market, you have to be willing to put at least $50 a month into it. Mm-hmm. On a continuous basis, for a few reasons. Number one, it's not going to do you any good just to throw $50 in there. You don't want to pay me to do that. Like, I'll tell you, go to Robinhood, Charles Schwab, somebody like that, where they're not going to charge you less fees. Because as much as I don't sit down and charge anybody for the planning, I do charge a fee for my, watching your money. Yeah. That takes a little bit of work. I'm looking at your accounts, 3, 4, 5 times a week, depending on what's going on in the market. So I don't charge anything. When I sit down and do things like this, like, well, are you going to give away something free? I'm like, well, I give my services. I really give my services away for free. So what I will do is when people come in, like I said, I'll sit down. We'll do it. Like, we'll just kind of get to know each other. I'll ask them questions. They'll have a chance to kind of interview and ask me questions. And then we'll see if it's a fit to work together. It's not a fit for everybody to work with me, and me for everybody. So it has to, I just don't take a client to get another client. Right. I really believe in a long-term relationship. As a investment advisor representative, I actually have a duty to make sure that I am meeting with you at least once a year, to go over your goals, to go over your objections, see if you've had any life changes. Sometimes it'll be a quarterly review depending on what we're doing. And so I want to make sure that, we're going to be in this for the long haul. So I want to make sure, are you going to be upfront and forthcoming with me with about what your goals and dreams are? And if so, then I'm more than happy to come up with a plan.
Great. That's awesome. So what steps can our people take to maybe get in touch with you and have a woman by their side, and like you said, men can sometimes be more aggressive. And I think I would feel more comfortable having a woman as my advisor, because you know the difference, the struggle, how it all works. What can we do to get in touch with you and to find out, how we can schedule time with you and all of those great things?
The best way is to actually just give me a call. Okay. That's my work cell phone. So give me a call, shoot me a text at 909-367-3208. Another way is just to email me, which is Michele with 1 L at T as in Tom, F as in Frank, A, W, M as in Mary.com.
TFA Insurance. What is it?
I was giving you the short email.
Okay.
TFAWM.com, short for the Financial Architects Wealth Management.
Okay. There we go.
Making it easier.
Put that up there. TFAWM.com. Yeah, that's way easier. Thank you for that. No, so we've had such a wonderful time with you today. There's so much great information and value. I do have one last question. Do you offer any classes or anything like that? So if people just are kind of like dipping their toe in and want to check it out.
We do have, it's not necessarily a class, but our company does what's called a TFA Money Talk Tuesday. So we do a Zoom presentation at 7 p.m. and every Tuesday, and we have different people come in. We have different speakers. Like, I've gone over kind of like stocks 101. We've had people talk about really just kind of how to be an entrepreneur. We've had other people come in and talk about exit strategies and estate planning. I am working on a class, like a 5 or 6 series class. So that is in the works with another organization that I'm a part of. So I am looking at doing something like that. But really, if you have any questions, just shoot me a call. And we've got a lot of YouTubes that we use. So I may shoot you a YouTube video from one of our partners here.
Oh, awesome.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Michele, for being here. I mean, that's the beauty of having these podcasts, is getting this kind of information out and educating people. I mean, I love what you've shared. And I mean, even myself, I learned so much more. And of course, I loved your awesome energy, because it was very positive and very reassuring. I mean, I could see where you'd just be a phenomenal advisor helping women. I mean, and of course, men too, but I love how your focus is so much on lifting women and helping them, step more into their greatness and getting clear about what they really want. I mean, that really spoke to me. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I had a blast with you ladies today.
Awesome. Well, we want to thank all of our audience members for watching. As always, we appreciate all of your support. And thank you for sharing this out. You can find us on the web at expandedwoman.com. And you can find us on Instagram at expandedwoman. And Misty, tell them where they can find us on Facebook.
So on Facebook, we have our group that is a wonderful community. And you can find us at facebook.com/groups// Expanded Woman Business Network. And then our page is under just Expanded Woman. So thank you guys so much. We can't wait to see you again. I hope you have a great week.
All right, everyone. Well, we'll see you next week. And for the rest of the week, create an amazing week. Bye now.